Hi guys, and welcome back to another IBRACORP video. What a pleasure to have you guys here today. Thank you for coming in and checking out the channel. Today we're going to be going with part 3 of the Unraid Zero to Hero series. In the first two parts we went through setting up Unraid, and then in the second part we also went through a bunch of other settings and top plugins that we'd recommend. And with those two parts done, we can focus on part 3, which today is going to be setting up our Docker containers. One of the most exciting parts, I think, of setting up our new server. We'll go through setting up some of the main media automation apps at the base level at least, and getting all of the settings fine-tuned inside the Docker container templates. And that way, once we start actually connecting them together, we'll be able to have a fully automated media server environment. Once we get some of those main settings complete, then we can also look at the networking side of things, so we can set up remote access and what you're going to need for those as well. So if you're as excited as I am to get stuck into today's video, please stick around to the end. We'd appreciate a like and subscribe if you love our content as well. It really helps the channel spread the love. Without further ado, let's just get stuck into it. Alright guys, so now we're up to one of our most exciting parts, which is getting the automation set up in our environment. Now, typically the way I like to start is things like networking and our media server automation apps that run in the back end before we even get to the actual media servers. So in the next episode, I'm going to try and focus on the actual setup of Plex itself and all the settings within it, slash referring to our Jellyfin video for those that are using Jellyfin. But for now, we're just going to focus on the back end and how we want to run a couple of those things, what containers we want to use, and the best way to get a kickstart for our day. So what I'm going to do is refer to our existing server here on Osiris so that you get a bit of an idea on what we're looking at. Again, if you didn't know, Unraid runs these containers in order of top to bottom when it comes to starting and stopping them. So we start at the top. We've got things like our Nginx Proxy Manager. I still love Nginx Proxy Manager. I do have Pangolin here set up, which we did in our video on Pangolin as well. If you want to use Pangolin, please go ahead. Purpose of today's video, I'm just using Nginx Proxy Manager as an example of how our stack will look. So we've got Nginx Proxy Manager, we've got Cloudflare. Cloudflare is going to allow us to tunnel from our DNS right straight through to here. All connectivity to our exposed apps are via tunneling instead of just being out in the open. Then we have our media server being Plex. I am running Cloudflare Dynamic DNS. It's not really for anything to do with our media automation. I've actually got that set up mainly for Next DNS, which I'll cover in a separate video. Obviously, we then have Plex, Jellyfin, regardless of what media server, could be MB. We're usually running it at this level in the stack. Underneath that is where we see our main backend automation stuff. So we've got Prowler, Radarr, Sonarr, Vars, Overseerr, Tortoli for our statistics, Overseerr is for our requesting of content, Vars for subtitles, Sonarr for TV, Radarr for films. Then we have Commenter for our meta information. We can update things like pictures, we can update things like lists and collections, everything like that. Gives you a lot of customizability. We have a maintainer, which is a new one to me, but basically that one allows us to clean out old content. Now, if you're not limited on space like I am, and you have a huge amount of drive space that you can use, you don't really need it. But if you're like me and you probably want to clear up some space on a particular customized format, perhaps something that hasn't been watched in a couple of years, you don't want it anymore, you can clear it out. Ideally, I wouldn't recommend you ever delete stuff, because what could be available today may not be available in 3 years, and you just never know. Then we have our downloaders, which is here. As you can see, we've got SAB and Qubit, and we have Notifier, which allows us to automate a lot of the profiles that we get from the trash guides. I did a video on Notifier. It's been updated a lot since I last covered it, so it is due for another one. I am waiting a little bit though on a particular update in order to cover it again. Big shout out to Nginx, the developer. Love his work. It's a great application, and I highly recommend everybody check it out and support the project if you can. And then underneath that, we've got something like Code Server, which just is, it's a utility tool for me. I can access files on the server and edit them and work with them without having to go through something like a network share. And that's really about it. I'm not going to worry about DizQTV at this point. But if you are interested in running kind of like your own timetabling, schedule TV type thing, I recommend you go check out Space Invader 1's Ersatz TV video. Really highly recommend his work as well. Go ahead and check out his channel. I'll drop a link in the description down below. With that all said, let's get into actually installing some containers now. So let's head over to the Docker tab, and you can see on our new server that we don't have any Docker containers. It's completely empty. One setting I will recommend is if you just come back to settings and then go to Docker. And what we'll do is just stop the Docker service here for a moment. Now, previously, I think in the first episode, I did mention the different types of the Docker data root directory and how we set that up, whether we want to vdisk with XFS or Btrfs. Rightfully, the community pointed out the directory option, which is actually a better option. So if it's not too late and you're still with me here and you haven't started installing containers, this is a really good time to probably make the switch over to directory. We expand out the explanation here on Unraid. You can see here it recommends that it goes to a location where it's cache only. So you can see it's pointing to MNT user system Docker. So if we go quickly to shares, we've got system right here, and we can see the storage location is the cache, or cache, as everybody likes to point out. Doesn't really matter, guys. I'm going to call it whatever I can. So we can confirm that that's a good setting. That's what we want. We want it to be living on that cache at all times, right? So set that to the directory. Don't need to delete it or anything like that. Leave the storage driver as native, and then the app data storage location should be MNT user app data, as we showed you in the previous episodes of this series. Now, once you've done that, we can then re-enable the Docker service by going to yes, enable Docker, and apply. Okay, great. Now we're ready to get cracking with some installs of our favorite Docker containers. So let's go with our top Docker containers that we recommend you get going with. Go over to apps, and let's start with Nginx Proxy Manager. Now what we're going to do is just install the container, okay? We won't go into all the settings just yet, but let's go in with install under this container here. Great, so we get onto the template page. Everything can pretty much stay mostly default. What we'll do is set our custom Docker network though. And as you can see, we don't have one here for our server yet. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Top right, you see the terminal icon, click on that. It'll bring over our terminal, and then we will type in the following. So I've typed in create Docker network ibranet. I've called it ibranet. You can call it whatever you like. I did a really short video on what the benefits are of custom Docker networks, but essentially we're going to be able to get the containers to talk to each other using their container names rather than IP addresses. This comes in handy because we won't need to type in or update IP addresses when things change. As long as the container names stay the same, we can use the host name. So I'm calling it ibranet. You call it whatever you like. Go ahead and click enter. So guys, I'm not perfect. I always forget the command myself. It's actually Docker network create and then the network name. Now, once it's created, it's going to spit out a value like that you're seeing there. Don't worry about that. All good. That means it's successful. Go ahead and close the window. And now let's just refresh this page. We'll hit F5 and we drop down here, and you can see our custom Docker network is right there, custom ibranet. Okay, so select that. Scroll down, we have our default ports. Now this is a brand new server, I'm assuming, if you're following along our series, so we don't need to change any of these, all right? Let's just leave them as default. It'll make our lives a lot easier. If we expand the more settings, it means we can just quickly check that the app data location matches what we need. That looks good. Everything else looks good as well. I'd recommend leaving IPv6 disabled unless you have a specific need. So with all that default, we can pretty much apply it. Just take note that the default username and password is listed right here. So the username is admin@example.com and the password is change.me. So go ahead and click apply, and then we'll go over to Docker. Great, so the container started. Looks like the application is running. We'll left click and go to the web UI. Oh, bit of a flashbang there, sorry. But let's go ahead and go admin@example.com. So admin@example.com and change.me as the password. Click sign in. So we can leave the default admin username and nickname if you want, unless you want to customize it, and then make sure you set an actual correct email. In my case, I'm just going to use admin@ibracorp.io and click on save. Then we'll have to change the password. Remember, it was change.me, and then create your own one. All right, guys, now with that done, we don't really need to do anything else in here for the moment, okay? Let's just leave it here for now. We have our Nginx Proxy Manager up and running, and then we will come back to it and customize it later. But we need to talk about the two paths that we can take now. So if you don't want to use Cloudflare, if you don't use Cloudflare and you just want to be able to use Nginx Proxy Manager by itself, and you have the ability to open up ports 443 and 80 on your router, you can just do that. Okay, it means that those two ports will be open on your router, which is a risk. However, it will give you access as you wish. So if you are going to do that, just remember we've got these custom ports here on the container side, right? So that means on your router, you would set port 80 to 1880, and you would set port 443 to 18443. If you've changed these here on the container, obviously match that with what you're doing. But if you left it all default, that's what's going to get you your access to Nginx Proxy Manager via the web. So we have our reverse proxy that allows us to then get websites accessible externally. Now we'll look at some of our media backend automation apps so that we can have them ready, and their whole purpose is to help us organize our media that we own, by the way. So go back to the App Store and we'll start with Sonarr. Lots of different options you're going to see from various different publishers and uploaders. I always like choosing Hershio's repository. Pick that if that works for you. I like them and they're very lean. So go ahead and click on install. And it's going to give you a warning about these extra variables if you're wanting to use a VPN. I don't use a VPN for this stuff, so I'm not going to be showing that. But if you do, leave those options in. If you don't, I'm going to show you how to remove them now. So I'll just go with the default tag being latest. And then up here, we'll select advanced view, come down, and in extra parameters, what we can do is basically remove all of this. Okay. Scroll down a bit further, we'll change our network type to that custom Docker network that we created. We make sure the app data goes to our correct app data share, which it does. If you're ever not sure, just backtrack and you'll see these are the shares that we've created. So we know the app data lives there, and we know we want a folder called Sonarr. So you can just leave it as that. Now here is our data location, interestingly named, right? Because it's matching our trash guides on how we've set things up there. So if we just click on this and we go to media, then we have these three folders. So in here, the template says it's data, that's fine. In our case, we're going to be selecting the top level for us, which is media, right? What we can do is just leave it as user/media. If you named that share something else, maybe you called it data. If you're following trash guides, you might have data in there instead of media. Doesn't matter, guys. Just make sure you're matching that top level of the share, okay? Now, when we show more settings, we get all these ones related to the VPN stuff, like I said earlier. Since we're not using them, I'm just going to go ahead and remove them, and we'll keep it nice and light. I'm just removing all of these ones related to VPN, but keep these ones here. So the PUID, the PGID, and the UMask, don't remove those, keep them as is. Once you're done, go ahead and click on apply. All right, we go back to our Docker tab and we can see that that container is there. We can left click it, give it a second to start up. Now, don't be alarmed. On first startup, it can take just a couple of seconds here. Don't be rushing. Go ahead and try it again after a little bit and you'll see we're prompted straight away. So here we are on the main page. Always recommend you assign authentication. Don't leave it open, guys, regardless if you're keeping it local or not. Put some authentication on it. For me, I like the forms login page option, so I'm going to put that on. Enabled, and then adding our username and password. Once we're done, go ahead and click on save. And there we go. So we have our Sonarr set up. It's running, but there's nothing really done in here yet, okay? But every single app that we're covering, we're going to break it down. But right now, we just want to get our bare bones container set up and running. So let's just see how we go with that. So now we're pretty much going to do the same thing, but with Radarr. So go ahead through the same steps. I'm using everything the same container provider, same tags, everything. We set our custom Docker network. We're going to expand the advanced view up here, and we're going to remove all these extra parameters because we're not using a VPN. Custom Docker networks there, app data locations there, our media share is there. We show more settings, and then we remove all of this. Okay, once you've got it essentially looking like this, similar to our Sonarr setup, we can go ahead and click apply. We'll come back to the Docker tab. We'll left click on Radarr, give it a minute to set itself up for the first time, and then go through to the web UI. Now, once again, we're going to go through and set up our authentication stuff. So go ahead and do the same thing. There we go. So now we have Radarr up and running. So we're making some good progress. Now, as we go, we want to keep hygiene up. So what we'll do is select the advanced view here and then unlock the docking station up the top there. And then we can actually move the containers around. I'll put Nginx Proxy Manager at the top. Now, the next thing you might want to consider is, all right, further down the line, we might want to be able to put in requests and have an idea of what our family or ourselves might want to see on those servers. So what we can do is then add in Overseerr. Let's go to apps, find Overseerr. And again, Hershio has his own template there, so we'll use that one. Go with default. We set our custom Docker network and we start removing all those advanced properties just like we did with Radarr and Sonarr. Okay, so in the end, you should have something that looks pretty similar to that. Once you're done, click apply. All right, guys, so Overseerr is now installed and it's also running. Now, I'm not going to go through Overseerr's settings right now, because if we do that, we're actually not really set up yet with both Radarr, Sonarr, Plex, you know, all that stuff. So we don't want to get too far down into the configs just yet. There is an order we want to do them in. So right now, we're just focusing on getting the containers in and up and running, you know, the templates are set up correctly. And then we can go through each single container, which is probably going to have to be separate videos so that we don't overload you in one shot. Now, just like the others, I'll unlock that there so that we can shift it down, and we'll put it right down at the bottom. The reason why I put it at the bottom is it's a kind of like a periphery service, I think. It's not as important as the others, so it can start up last. And you kind of need these ones running for Overseerr to even work, so we probably want it last anyway, right, in terms of dependency. So now we have our reverse proxy, which allows us to access stuff remotely into the server. We have Radarr and Sonarr to help with some of that to help with that management of media. And then we have Overseerr, which allows us to facilitate requests for certain things as well. Now I'm going to do Plex itself, and I'm going to do that because there's a couple of settings in the template that are really worth knowing. And then we can pretty much call it a wrap for today. So let's go and find Plex. Again, I'm a big fan of Hoshio. I'm going to use his image, but there's plenty of other ones you can try if you wish. It's just that the templates may look different. So go in and we'll select the default label. I'm going to put it on our custom Docker network this time, as opposed to host. Default port is fine. You can change it if you wish. All this stuff is fine. And now here's where we need to pay attention just a little bit. Now, if you have a decent amount of RAM, I recommend you start using RAM for transcoding. It works really well for me. And the way it works is if we assign the dev/shm, it's going to use transcoding in RAM functionality. Typically, the way we've got it set up here means it'll use half the amount of RAM that your system has in order to facilitate that. And so if you've got a decent amount of RAM that's not really being used, it's a good option, right? It's much quicker. And then once the connection drops, the RAM basically just drops off as well, rather than using up drive space or more read writes to your SSD or cache. Now for our data, we want that to be, again, the media share. However, we will go down a level rather than right at the top. So go to media, and then you pretty much just stop there. Okay, so it should be, in your case, if you're following trash guides, it could say data/media. Just follow the same structure. Now we don't need to put the claim token there, and we don't need to put the URL, so don't worry about that too much. Now under the more settings, again, we're going to remove a lot of this stuff related to VPNs. We don't use them here. If you are using them, this probably isn't the video for you. But if for those that aren't using it, you can just clear these off. We're keeping the PUID, PGID, and the UMask, just like everything else we've done today. Just open up the advanced view at the top, and we'll remove these extra parameters as well. All right, and then scroll down. And we're going to do one other thing here, which is going to be adding our Intel GPU. Now, if you're using an Intel GPU, this is where you'll be doing it. If you're not and using NVIDIA, it's going to be a different one. So in here, what we can do is say we want to add a device, Intel GPU /dev/dry. Okay, that adds our Intel GPU to allow us to do hardware transcoding. Go ahead and add that. You can see it adds the device down here. Again, if you are not using an Intel CPU that has a built-in integrated graphics, you don't need to add this. You might be using an NVIDIA card. You'll need to add the NVIDIA card, which is a separate step. I don't actually use it, so I actually couldn't tell you with comfort what the correct steps are. So I wouldn't feel comfortable just giving you an answer if I don't really know the answer, guys. Now, while we're waiting, I do want to preface this with, remember that we are talking about setting up a media server for media that we own in our own home that we've paid for. I'm not showing you anything otherwise, as long as you understand what I'm talking about. Go back to your Docker tab, and we'll see Plex has started up there. Give it a second, and then go ahead and check the web UI. Obviously, I'm assuming you've already set up a Plex account. If you haven't, now's the time to go ahead and do that. Now, I went to Plex claim code, and I actually grabbed the claim code for us by signing in. I've hidden the username, obviously, but I've grabbed the claim code that it's given us, so I can copy that. We go back to our Plex container, and then in the claim token, we can pretty much just put that in there. Once you're happy, go ahead and click on apply. Now it's going to restart with that claim token. Hopefully we get a better result this time. All right, so we finally got that going. I had to do the claim code, which that was an oversight on my behalf. Apologies. If we are using a bridge network, which we are with the custom Docker network that we've set up, we do need to use the claim method as opposed to just being able to connect directly if we had it on host. Once I did that, put it in, I still had an issue. So what I did was restart the container, and sure enough, now I can actually set it up. So go to got it, and now we can set up a new server. I'll just call it IBRACORP. Call it whatever suits you. Do we want to allow remote access? Typically you want that to be yes. If you don't, untick it here. Then you'll go through to media library. So what we can do is go add library, and we can start setting up our library, right? So we'll go to movies, go next, browse for the folder. Now, if I refer back to the container, remember that inside the container, it's going to /data, right? So if we come back to Plex and we go up, we should see a folder called data. Click on that, and sure enough, there is our media folder, okay? So for movies, obviously we're gonna select movies, click add, and click add library, go next. And if you had a TV one, obviously add the TV one, okay? For today, we're just adding movies, so go next and click on done. All right, guys, so there we go. We've got our main media automation app set up, how to set up those templates for them, as well as a reverse proxy, and set up Plex ready to go. Now, in the next few videos, what we're going to do is take some time and go through each single app as we go, because I really want to give you guys the best setup for each one. I think they deserve their own video, and actually some of our team members suggested it would be a good idea so that we're not overloading you, and at the same time the video isn't like an hour and a half long, which really doesn't really help anybody, us or yourself. So from here on, what I'm going to do is split up the next few videos per app. So I'll do one on Plex, I'll do one on Radarr, Sonarr, all the other apps individually. First thing we'll start with is Nginx Proxy Manager and the networking side of things, right? Because for those that want to access stuff remotely, it's essential that we get that working. I really hope you guys can give me just a little bit of patience. We're actually moving house in the next couple of weeks, so it's really hard for me to find some time to get the recordings done. But I love you guys so much. You've given me so much support over the past few weeks and months that I'm trying my best to make sure I get out some content to you as well. So I appreciate you coming past, liking and watching the videos. It really has helped the channel a lot. And congratulations to all of us. We made it to 40k subscribers, which I never thought would happen when I first started this channel out. So thank you very much for your support. I really, really appreciate it. If you have any ideas or need to have someone to talk to, jump in our Discord. We'd love to have you there. Otherwise, thank you for supporting the channel. If you're a channel member or you just wish to donate with a super thanks, anything like that, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Leave your feedback in the comments on what you'd like to see in the next few episodes so I can really kind of refine it down for you. I do look at every single comment, so I really take them seriously. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next IBRACORP video.